Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is just a short little update and I don't know, maybe a bit of a rant about what happened today, but I'm going to be uploading 2 videos tonight. This video, and then I'm going to be doing my Jeffree Star Cremated palette swatching, and I'm actually going to use some of the eyeshadow. But first, let me tell you what happened today and what I was advised, and we'll get right into that. So Ronnie was helping me do some packing up in the basement today, and we left for a bit. We ran down Dollar General to get more boxes. So while we were gone, this appeared on our door, and we got a copy in the mail, and my neighbor next door, she got a copy as well. And I'll close the pictures of this. What it is Recovery of Real Property Hearing Notice. Wednesday, March 31st, 2021, 12:15 p.m. My neighbor's next door, hers is 12:30 p.m. And filing costs, $124.25. Service costs, $26.70. Constable something, $5. Total, $155.95. Day paid, March 22nd, 2021. And this guy is from Lawrence, Massachusetts. Okay. So it says, notice to quit was given in accordance with law. Technically, in our case, no, it was not. Because in a month-to-month lease, at least here in the state, I can't speak for other states, any kind of legal action as far as an eviction or anything along those lines cannot be posted until the last day of that calendar month, meaning that on the 31st, they could turn around and put a notice to quit. But he chose to do it on March 8th, which was wrong. So I'm going to bring my rent receipts. Now, this particular magistrate, and anybody familiar with Hazleton and that knows who the magistrate is, he's basically an ass. He always sides with landlords. And nobody here is arguing. And this is what my neighbor said. The constable got attitude with her, and she said nobody is disputing the fact that it's his property. But looking for a place now is a lot different than it was 3 years ago when we moved here. It's just not that easy. And just because one neighbor was able to get a place relatively quick, well, he has a really good security job with some company. He carries heat. He is making really good money now. And so being able to get a house in there was a lot easier for him because of the money. And my neighbor was telling me tonight that she checked her credit score, and her credit score is like a little over 800. And I said to her, well, you should have no problem being able to buy a house. She was horrified because when she went to look for a storage unit to start taking stuff over to a storage unit, there was none available. They're all sold. They're all in use. So that means that we're going to have to go outside of the Hazleton area to actually be able to store our stuff, which is rather ridiculous. But what does that tell you when there's no available storage units? That definitely tells you what's coming down the pike. So, I finally got a call back from the lawyer from Legal Services, and she asked me to send her, a picture of everything. And she basically was saying that to buy a little extra time, you can appeal a magistrate's decision, but it has to be right there at that moment. Whenever he announces his decision, you have to speak up and say, I'm appealing this. And so that is basically what I'm going to have to do. Now, there is an option presented to Ronnie and I. If we do take that option, it means that we would have to wait a bit as far as getting to South Carolina eventually, because someone has to get cancer surgery, and it's being done up here in PA. So that is a bit of a situation too. But I'll talk more about that down the road. But anyway, so if we do go that route and stay, we're going to still be in PA, but we're going to be in a more rural area. And you will probably see more outdoor videos simply because there's not stores or anything around within walking distance. So it's not like there's a whole lot to actually do. So if anything, I would probably be doing more cooking videos, just simply because I'm not going to be able really to do many DIYs or anything, given the fact that most of my stuff will be in storage. But I think what really burned my butt the most is knowing that in a few days there's going to be families with children living in cars, in tents, all around the country. All around the country. And that eviction moratorium, even if it is extended in a few days, doesn't benefit us because our eviction situation does not fall into that category. So that offers like us nothing. And I think it just burns my butt that all these migrant kids are coming over. Now, I'm nothing, God forbid, against people of another race. I'm not racist. All I am saying is that the United States needs to learn to do for its own first, I think, before it worries about taking care of other countries. And it's so weird I find myself saying this. I grew up for years hearing my grandparents bitch about that, hearing my mother bitch about that, and saying that the United States was stupid because they're always helping this one, that one, blah, blah, blah. I remember before the COVID relief was passed, one of these Republicans was saying that, oh, you can't give people any more unemployment. They aren't going to want to go to work. As if an extra $200 or something is going to make them rich, and they're just not going to go to work. But yet, a few days later, it came up on the news that the government sent millions of dollars to the Ukraine. Well, you can't help your own American people out, but you can give aid to foreign countries. That is the one thing my grandparents hated. My mother always bitched about that. So many people bitch about that. Now I find myself, I'm bitching about it too, because it's quite true. It is disgraceful that there are veterans who have an income that are homeless because they can't afford to pay rent for a place because the rents are ridiculous. And society has allowed that, all this nonsense to go on. And they're homeless, but they have an income, that not necessarily people with drug problems or mental health issues or being alcoholics or anything like that. No, there's going to be a new type of homeless population. These are people who have incomes, people who work. And I was talking to my mom's cousin again tonight, who was really disappointed with how the vaccine rollout's going here in PA. And she had said how different it was being done in Arizona. That's where she lives. And also she was telling me how cheap the rents were when she was a little girl. And I had said to her, why didn't your family or my grandparents or that own a house? And she said, well, years ago, there was always an apartment available for rent. And the rents were so darn cheap back then, she said, and the apartments were nice. The only people that owned houses at that time, she said, were like bankers, business people, lawyers, doctors, people who had stores or that, business people, some type of professional. The average worker, she said, no, they rented houses or they rented apartments. That nobody, with the wages being so low, could afford to buy a house unless you had a really good income. Okay, so that made sense. Now, of course, she said you fast forward 30, 40 years, so many more people own a house because there's been government help to get houses. But she said the problem now is that these property owners and these rental agencies are taking advantage of people shifting and moving because of the pandemic. First, people were moving to get away from the pandemic. Then people were moving because of their jobs. And people were looking for, like a cheaper rent. So say a family in New York sells a house that cost them, say, over $400,000. They come to PA, they could get 2 properties. And these properties are twice the size of what they may have paid for in New York. So they can live nice in one and rent the other one out. And based on the current market value of what's going on around here, they can get like $1,000 or more a month for their property. But the average worker isn't going to be able to afford that. Now, Hazleton is banking on different businesses, manufacturing and that, coming to Hazleton in the next 5-6 years. And they're also banking on people building homes in the Hazleton area. And Hazleton's track record isn't that good, and I'll tell you why. And this is just one example. There was some Japanese business came here. Oh my God, I want to say I was in my 20s. I forget the name of it, but they were growing some type of plant, and it was supposed to be like some kind of health food, superfood, some kind of thing. And that was here for about maybe 2 years, and then it pulled out of the area. Then there was a big call center down in Drums, I believe it was, for the Hilton hotels. And having a good background in telemarketing and that, I was really interested in it. But the problem was Ronnie's dad was working overnight at that time. And your training was in the evening, and you had to work overnight. And I couldn't do it because Ronnie's dad obviously had the car. So I was never able to take advantage of that job. There was in the Hazleton area there's Can Do, which works with bringing these new jobs and businesses and things to the Hazleton area. Well, Can Do gave them all these big tax breaks. So this call center was open for several years. My friend got a promotion, and she was, I believe, like an assistant manager and doing good. She goes to work one day. Office is completely bare. Cubicles gone. Computers gone. Signs over the windows and the doors. Call some number to make arrangements to get your money from your 401k. And then call this other number to find out what your severance package is going to be. They didn't even let anyone know they were pulling out, least of all their employees. And Can Do was so shocked when the calls started coming in that this place literally moved out over a weekend. They didn't know what to do. There was articles in their local paper about it and everything. And the bottom line is Can Do could only figure out that their tax breaks and everything were going to be running out. And they decided to up and skedaddle. So it would not surprise me one bit. Hazleton is banking on all these big businesses. But there have been other businesses that were here in this area that pulled the fast one. And right before their tax breaks were set to expire, they up and pull up. And how many thousands of people are without a job? So at some point, the move to this area is going to level up. And if Amazon leaves, that's going to be a major hurt because there's a lot of people work at Amazon. If any of these jobs that the city is expecting to come change their mind and don't, that's going to be a bust. And at some point, the interest rates are going to go climbing back up. When the economy starts rebounding a little bit, the interest rates are going to rise again. They're not going to be super low forever. And property taxes go up. So these investment people that buy all these properties and think they're going to get $1,300–1,400 a month for their wonderful property are going to eventually be having a hard time to rent them, because if the jobs aren't coming here and change their mind, people aren't going to rent or buy a house here. If a job pulls out that employs a lot of people, people are going to be losing their homes and not going to be able to afford that crazy rent. So it's going to be interesting. And my mom's cousin Ellen, the older lady that I talked to from Arizona, she donates, well, she volunteers at a food pantry there in Arizona. And she's been vaccinated for weeks now. And she said she really started paying attention to the vehicles that pull up. And now she could see the signs of who's living in a car, who's living in a truck, this and that. And she goes, you know what, you're right. She said, I never really took notice, but now I am starting to actually see. And I said to her, I said, I seriously, truthfully hope, and I hate to say this, but my mom used to always say that there needed to be a workers' revolution in the U.S. I think there just needs to be an out-and-out, like something. People just got to protest. There's going to be a point where this just has to stop. This can't go on. And people are going to be pitching tents on the side of the road, making sure that people see them, so that no business professional going to their office is going to not know that there's homeless people living on the side of the road that aren't your average homeless person, because they probably have a job and they probably actually have an income. It's going to be a whole different ballgame. Crimes are going to start going up, and there's going to be vandalism. There is going to be destruction. There's going to be a lot more crime. And states are going to be left with this thing of, well, what do we do? Because every state has homeless to begin with. But now it's compounded by this nonsense that went on during the pandemic. Now you're dealing with a whole group of people. And to show you how different it is from when I looked at this apartment 3 years ago, you didn't need to have a credit check. I mean, some landlords back then, though, still required a background check. No biggie. You didn't have to have pay stubs. You didn't have to have credit over 700. I mean, think about it for a moment, guys. How many people do you know that has a credit score over 600 right now? Or how many people did you know that did have good credit that it probably got ruined? And there's going to be a serious problem if you have a ton of homeless people who can't rent a place simply because they have a bad credit score. Well, how would you like homeless people to improve their credit score? How would you, like to take a jab and try and solve this mess that the country allows to go on? Because it's going to get to a point that it's too far gone. I was looking up, I remember my grandmother talking about rent control, and I was surprised to find out that there is still a few states where there is pockets of rent control, New York being one. And while it seemed to be good, they claim that it hurt renters in the long run. So I'm not going to even get into all of that, and it probably will never be reinstated because Pennsylvania is a landlord-friendly state. But, I would like to think that you can have landlords without tenants. So if the landlords get so high and mighty to the point of where their properties remain vacant because they have no tenants, then there's a problem. How are they going to recoup on their investment? And you can't necessarily turn a residential property into a business property or vice versa, because of zoning and things like that. So what's really going to, what's going to happen down the road? It's going to be interesting. And I said people should camp out across from the White House. People should camp out across from their Capitol buildings. There should be tents and cars and trailers and whatever parked on the sides of the roads, because there simply is not enough jails to put every homeless person in who pickets or protests or is somewhere in public view. There's just going to be too many people that it's going to be a hidden problem. It isn't going to be a hidden problem very soon. It's going to be a problem that everybody is going to be aware of. And I am really, really expecting to see stuff like this, because I think at some point people are just going to be like, no, we've had enough. We're not second-class citizens. We deserve to, have a home to live too. You people out here are just crazy with your damn greed. And something is going to have to be done, because it's just going to get so bad. It's going to be a problem. I was watching a YouTuber I subscribe to. He's real funny. He does some paranormal stuff. He does urbex, Mosargi. And him and his wife just had a baby a couple months ago. And he was saying about, I guess some of his subs said oh, Canada doesn't have a homeless problem. He went down this one street and he said, you want to make a bet? That's just one block, he said. So homeless people are everywhere. But this is just going to be so much worse. And I think what's insulting right now is being in the precarious situation that we and even some of you folks are in right now yourselves, knowing that people are coming here, having some place to sleep, those kids are taken care of, and there's kids that are sleeping in a car whose parents may have to give them a sponge bath in a gas station so they could go to school. I'm sorry, but that's just wrong. That is just wrong. I would like to do a video about rent control and some ideas that I actually considered the one day. Even if rent control would never be brought back, I think there are things that could be done to maybe nip this nonsense in the bud. I mean, yes, a property owner can charge whatever they want, but as with raising the minimum wage, it isn't going to benefit anyone to give people more money when the rents are going to go up. When the utilities go up, people are not getting ahead. But the government can put caps on things for a certain amount of time. Why can't the government do that with rent? I mean, yeah, landlords would not appreciate it, but if their properties are sitting empty, then, it's kind of like saying, well, you're not a really successful landlord, are you? If you have people moving in and out because they really can't upkeep the rent, and this and that, and the old thing, the formula that Section 8 used to use, 30% of your income for rent. Last week, I was on the U.S. Census site, and I was looking at data from previous census, not the one that I just filled out the thing for last year. The previous census said 46 or 48.6% of Hazletonians were rent burdened. And that was back a couple of years ago. So imagine now. That's not good for a state, and it's not good for a country. And I think people that are in these situations need to start going to newspapers. They need to start putting letters in newspapers. They need to start really letting everyone know the ridiculous nonsense that is going on out there. Because there honestly are people who really do not know how bad it is. And enough of us know how bad it's going to get. And I really think more people need to be made aware of it. You really, really do. So let me know, guys, in the comment section if you would like to hear about rent control and basically what it was like, because there's a lot of people who don't even know what rent control was. And some of my thoughts on things that might actually help with this crazy situation going on right now. Let me know in the comment section, guys. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit my bell for all so you are notified every time that I do upload a new video. Take care, everyone, and I'm going to see you in a little bit, because tonight I will be Jeffree Star Cremated eyeshadow palette. So, I will see you all on my next one.